Hi students, and welcome to today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian and I'm streaming to you from beautiful Victoria here on the west coast of Canada. I hope everybody has had a fantastic week so far, and I hope you're looking forward to an even better weekend coming up. Hi Kyber. Hi Paulo. Welcome members. This is a members chat class. Everybody is welcome to watch. And in this class, we are looking at the IELTS reading section. We're looking for Band 9 perfection. And this lesson is brought to you by aehelp.com for academic IELTS success. Please visit us there. For the general IELTS, check us out at gieltshelp.com. That's generalieltshelp.com. On both of those websites, we have lots and lots of materials for the reading section, as well as other parts of the IELTS to help you. Hi, Satish. Hi, Bauka. Good to see more students joining in. Hi, Rajveer. Our websites look like this. This is our academic IELTS website here with the blue background. You can click this big red button to join our premium package. It's a one-time payment for lifetime access. Students in the general IELTS, we're having trouble with the video stream there, so please go to the academic IELTS for now. We'll try to fix it for the next class. It's a new type of setup, so thank you for your understanding. I'm going to end that stream, in fact. Let's get back to it. Our general IELTS website looks like this with the green background. You can click this big red button to join us there. Of course, there you will find reading materials for the general IELTS version of the exam. Paulo, don't be nervous about your exam. Just keep studying. Okay, I can see that your test is getting closer. Okay, all right. To get our apps, you will find Academic IELTS Help and General IELTS Help on your Google Play and Apple App Stores. You can download those, link them to your web accounts. And if you have questions, you can send me an email to adrian@aehelp.com. Okay? All right. So let me just try to see if I can get this even a little bit more sharper for you there. There we go. And after today's reading class, we will have a listening part 1 and part 2 for everyone. So look forward to that. And then we'll have vocab and grammar for members tomorrow, and then more listening for parts 3 and part 4. So lots more classes coming up this week. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and get notifications. All right, everyone. So we'll get into today's class here. And we're going to be looking at this passage, the city of 1,000 windows. Okay. So, reading passage, spend 20 minutes on a reading passage. Don't spend more than 20 minutes. Today we're going to spend the whole class because I'm going to teach you strategy for questions, and we're going to read the whole passage together so that we make sure that we understand it. In order to understand a passage in the exam, your first step should always be to visualize and think about the title of the passage. So let me ask you this. When you have this kind of a title, City of 1,000 Windows, what comes to mind? So what is that? Okay. So obviously visualize it. Okay. So strategy 1, visualize the title and think about what, why, and how. Okay, so when you have this title, City of 1,000 Windows, What do you see? Okay, so before you start looking at the questions, before you start reading, what do you see with this city of 1,000 windows? Let me get some better lighting here for us while you answer that question. Okay, so city of 1,000 windows. What comes to mind? What do you picture? How do you see that? Okay. So Natalie says maybe some skyscrapers. Okay, Natalie, that's definitely one way to look at it. Kyber says, I can visualize this city will probably have many windows in each home of the city. So maybe, yeah, each of the residences has a lot of different windows. That's possible too, absolutely. Okay. So Sammy says, I imagine a city on a hill and having many entries. Why do you see that, Sammy? So why do you see a city on a hill? Okay, what makes you see that? All right. June says a city with architecture featured by windows. Yeah, so, okay, so there are some different ways to picture this, right? So I see a city that has many buildings which have many windows as a key feature of the architecture. Okay, why would that be? So why would a city have a lot of windows? What do you think? So before you read, it's good to think critically. Like, why would you have this kind of a city where there's lots of windows? Why would that be typical of the architecture in the city? What kind of a purpose could it serve? Okay, what do you think? Natalie says for lots of flats. Sammy says for more ventilation. Okay, what I would be hoping is at some point you might think of the idea that, well, okay, so maybe these are church windows or some other kind of religious buildings windows that are for religious depiction. They're called stained glass windows, okay? So those colorful windows that have different kinds of motifs are called stained glass windows. So that could be the other reason, right? So if it's not a modern city, if it's an old city, then it would be for that purpose, right? Okay, all right. So let's take a look now more at the reading passage. Let's take a look. If you can't really think of much just from the title, it's a good idea to look at the questions first and then do more critical thinking, okay? So, and I agree, this title's a little bit vague. It's hard to figure out whether it's old or new. So in this case, I would probably look at the questions a bit more to give me more help before thinking critically. So, okay. So If the title is difficult to predict, then look at the questions a bit more to get clarity before doing critical thinking. All right? So let's do that. So here we are. Here are the questions. Okay. Title of summary topic. Well, look at that. Well, that's definitely a good hint that we should be looking at this because this is actually here to give us a bit more clarity. Okay. So this is something that's going to be useful. You're filling in the blanks here for this kind of short answer or summary completion. All of this information is somewhere in the passage, okay? So let's read through it. And this is a reading class, so let's read together, okay? Let's practice our reading. And if you can, try to read aloud. So read nice and loud so you can hear your own voice, okay? So title of summary topic, beginnings. The mythical origin of Bharat involves a battle between two something concerning the affection of a certain woman named Timur and Shpirag. They live on today in the form of two something surrounding the city of Bharat. Okay, so here I realize that we are looking at the city of Bharat. Okay, that's the one key information that I get from that first part. It's the city of Bharat. All right. Violent strikes. Bharat is thought to be about 2,500 years old. Soon after this time, when it was a Macedonian fortress, the something destroyed the city and killed all males over the age of 15. Later, Bharat was given the name something because of its importance in culture and beauty in the Byzantine Empire. Okay, so now we learn two more pieces of important information. One is we're dealing with an ancient city's history. And two, we're dealing with the Byzantine Empire. Okay, as long as you know a bit of ancient history, I'm sure all of you are familiar with the Byzantine Empire. It is one of the key cultural empires of our past. Okay, all right. Guarding Bharat. The fortress on top of Osum River's north bank is known as the something of Bharat. It is over 1,500 years old and was repaired approximately 800 years ago. It once held many religious institutions, including something and 20 Christian houses of worship. Okay, so now we get a bit more detail that in this city of Bharat, there's some kind of a fortress. It's ancient, okay? And it had many religious institutions, which means religious buildings. So the concept of mosques, of churches, of these windows is probably on the right track, okay? All right, so now we have the yes, no, not given, which is like the true, false, not given. As many of you know, this type of question is best left for after the passage, and we've got a good number of them. Now, we don't know which one of these are true or false or yes or no, so we leave these to the end of the passage, okay? We'll do those together later. And then we have one multiple choice. So this is reading passage 3. It's the last question, number 40. And we have one multiple choice. The choices are not of interest to us because we know that 3 of them are wrong. So we just look at this question only. Which of the following phrases best describes the main aim of the reading passage? Okay, so we're looking for the main idea or the main goal of the reading passage. All right, I'm going to leave this one for the end because I think if I read this, it might be confusing. It might mislead me, so I'm not going to take a look at that, even though I think that, well, maybe it could be helpful because I'll read the main goal of the passage. But if I read these, they could be just as dangerous as they are helpful. So I'm not going to read that, okay? All right. Okay, so I definitely have a lot more ideas, and now I have to picture and visualize myself back in time in the Byzantine Empire, and walking through the city of Berat. Specifically, I'm a tourist visiting the fortress of Berat, and I'm looking at the buildings and specifically the windows, because obviously there's going to be something about all of these windows that are there. Okay, so let's read this first paragraph so that we get a better idea. Okay, here we go. So read with me. According to an Albanian legend, Berat, the city of 1,000 windows, as it is affectionately known, was brought into being by a fight among the gods over the love of a woman. Two ancient giants, represented by the nearby mountains Timor and Shparag, killed each other in the battle for the woman's heart. Emotionally distraught over the deaths, the woman cried unendingly. She cried so much that her tears of sorrow created the Osum River, which bisects Berat, and she drowned in this river of her own tears. Okay, so we read this first paragraph. It's quite interesting. It's talking about the early mythology of the area, of the place where the city of Berat is. If I'm a tourist in Berat and I'm visiting this fortress and the title is The City of 1,000 Windows, how might I effectively visualize this first paragraph? Okay, what do you think, everyone? So, Rajveer, I don't know what the strategy that IELTS Daily gave you, but your strategy should be a strategy that works, which for sure, if you want to get over 7, is to just read, visualize, and think critically throughout the reading. Okay? So again, when you read this paragraph, what is an effective way to visualize what's happening here with this battle of these ancient giants, Timor and Shparag? So how would you actually picture that? Okay. Rajveer, I wouldn't do the reading one paragraph and then questions, because you'll have a lot of difficulty with some of the questions, like what is the main idea of this passage, right? Oa says the ancient story about the city. Yeah, Rajveer, if you want to get a band higher than 7, you cannot go paragraph by paragraph answering questions. It won't work because some questions are not in the correct order. Okay? The only question, Rajveer, that you should answer after each paragraph is list of headings. All right? If you want a band score higher than 7. Okay? All right? So, Oa says it's a story about the ancient city, but how do you visualize it? And I'll give you what I would do, okay? So, looking at the title and these questions so far. So, I imagine myself inside a religious building, looking at the stained glass windows that depict the story of Berat. Okay? And I've never been to Berat, but I wouldn't be too surprised if that's exactly what happens in some of the buildings there, is that you actually see, because those stained glass windows, they tell a story, and that's a very unique image in your mind, so it will make it really easy for you to remember. So again, imagine that you really are a tourist in the city of Berat, and you're going through these buildings, they're historical buildings, right? So, can everybody see those stained glass windows that are telling the story of these gods, these giants fighting amongst or between each other for this woman's love. And then the next kind of stained glass window shows this woman who's crying a river that turns into the Osum River. So, and then she falls into the river. So can everybody kind of like now see those stained glass windows telling this story? That will really help to burn the image into your thinking as you go through this passage. So Natalie says, yes, sir. Carolina goes, yeah, and you should be able to. These become vivid images, kind of like the pictures of a storybook, right? Like a children's storybook almost. Okay. So let's keep going with this idea. So Berat is an ancient city and is believed to be approximately 2,500 years old. Though the historical record is unclear, historians think the original inhabitants of the area were the ancient Greek tribe known as the Dasarete. Later, the settlement became a Macedonian fortress in what was then southern Illyria. One of the most gruesome events in the town history occurred in 200 BC when it was attacked by a Roman army led by Lucius Apustius. His army destroyed the city's defenses and killed every male citizen over the age of 15 in what must have been a terrible massacre. Now, here's another quick little tip to help you with your reading fluency and your score. When you come across these kinds of tricky words, for a better lack of expression, so words like Dasarete or Illyria or Lucius Pastius, don't really try to think about those words too much, okay? So if they become the answer in the answer sheet, you're going to have to come back and check the spelling for them anyway. I know I would for sure, okay? So don't stress about the pronunciation of awkward words in the reading, okay? All right? So this is just a big, quick tip, okay? So while reading, you should avoid getting stuck on awkward and difficult to pronounce words. Simply read through them. Okay? Don't get bogged down and try to discern their pronunciation and meaning. Okay? Because that will really break your concentration. So, and I've seen students do that where they're like, what is this word? How do you pronounce it? Raya? Is this an English word, or is this a name, or what is this word? Don't do that, okay? So just read through it. It's important that you keep fluency, because if you lose fluency, you start to lose comprehension, okay? So don't lose fluency, don't lose comprehension. You can come back later, all right? Okay, it's very important. Okay, so again, hopefully with this part that we just read, you kept visioning these stained glass windows. So the stained glass windows showing this terrible atrocity of the Romans coming into the city and destroying the defenses and killing all these young men. Okay, so hopefully you're visualizing that. Okay, and then here we go. So let's keep going. During the Byzantine period, following the fall of the western half of the Roman Empire, Berat was known as Pulcherpolis, a name which was derived from Pulcheria, the sister of Roman Emperor Theodosius II. This name was not given casually. Pulcheria was highly respected throughout the empire and was considered a co-regent alongside her brother, the emperor. Berat was given this name because it was an important center of culture, wealth, and beauty in the empire. Okay, so again, visualizing that the name of Berat before it was Berat is Pulcheria, named after this empress. Okay, again, we can continue with the stained glass imagery. The heart of Berat for centuries has been the castle atop a rocky hill on the north bank of the Osum River. The citadel of Berat, as it is sometimes known, began before the Roman invasion, rebuilt by Theodosius II in the 5th century CE, and rebuilt again in the 13th century by local Byzantine government. At its peak in the 1200s, the fortress housed thousands of citizens, 20 churches. The city was overwhelmingly Christian, one mosque, and other shops and services. To this day, hundreds of Albanians live within the castle walls, though most of the churches have been destroyed and the mosque exists only in minor ruins. Much of the housing remains intact from the period. Okay, good. So we've got some more history, and we're coming now more into the millennium of the previous millennium, the 1200s. Now, recognizing this and thinking about this, you should have also realized that there's some important paraphrasing going on here, okay? And paraphrasing is very important to recognize in reading, okay? All right, so one really good exercise that you can do, all right, when you're reading passages is identify all of the paraphrasing that the author's using and create a list for that passage, okay? Okay, this will help your reading comprehension as well as your vocabulary. Okay, so in this paragraph, we have the word fortress, okay, and we have two other words that paraphrase the word fortress. So as you've probably realized, the fortress of Berat is the landmark of Berat. And in this paragraph, the author, so that they're not just simply writing fortress, 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 they're paraphrasing this word a couple of different ways, two different ways, in fact. What are the two other words that the author has used in this paragraph? Let's see who caught that. Okay, so what are the two other words that the author has used for the word fortress in this paragraph? Let's see who caught those. All right. So the author said fortress, in another sentence the author said another word, and then another word. Here, let me give you a little bit of help. I'll bring the paragraph back up, and then perhaps you will identify it, okay, by looking at the paragraph. Yeah, Paulo, very good. That was one of them, the citadel. Yeah, citadel and fortress are pretty much perfect synonyms. Yeah, absolutely. And what's the other one? So here's the citadel of Berat, okay? So citadel was one, and there was another one as well. Yeah, very good, Sammy. Castle. All right. Excellent. Yeah. So you realize that castle atop the rocky hill is the same as the citadel. The castle is usually the inner part of the citadel, but it's still a paraphrase. So citadel, castle, and fortress are basically all paraphrasing each other. Very, very good. Okay, excellent. All right. Let's keep going. So again, remember that tip, all right? So when you read a passage, usually, I was going to say often, but basically almost always, the key words will be paraphrased by the author. Okay, so here we go. The early modern period of Berat, 16th to 18th centuries, was dominated by the Ottoman Empire. Construction during this time reflected both the Ottoman influence and the influence of Islam. By 1670, the city was home to a Muslim majority, less than 100 years after being almost entirely Christian. The construction of this time period largely remains to the present day and is the origin of Berat's nickname, the City of 1,000 Windows, as the Ottoman aesthetic favored relatively large and plentiful windows. This design, along with the city's layout, along the hillside embankment of the Osum River, which allows visitors to see much of the city's housing at one time, gave the impression that Berat was a city dominated by windows. To this day, visitors to the city quickly understand the city's nickname as the windows continue to dominate the cityscape. Okay, so here we get into the concept of why this is called the City of 1,000 Windows. We have the Ottoman Empire coming into the picture, the modernization or the modern city of Berat during the centuries. Christianity is replaced by Islam, and there are a ton of buildings with lots of windows constructed. Okay. Let's keep going. The end of the Ottoman Empire in the early 20th century coincided with the rise of Albanian nationalism and the creation of the modern Albanian state in 1913. Albania endured Nazi occupation in the 20th century, as well as the iron-fisted rule of communist dictator Enver Hoxha from 1944 to 1985. Hoxha's rule was commemorated on the side of nearby Mount Shparag, one of the mythical giants from Berat's origin legend mentioned above, in 1968 with the colossal painting of his name. Visible for miles, the letters, each 100 meters high and 60 meters wide, dominated the skyline above Berat for decades. If you visit Berat today, however, the mountainside letters look slightly different. In 2012, as part of a documentary film project, a 58-year-old farmer and his nephew effectively switched the first two letters by power washing and repainting, resulting in the word never adorning the mountainside. Never again would the proud Albanian people fall into the grips of dictatorship, and never again would the people of Berat venerate their past oppressor. Berat, an ancient city which has seen rulers and regimes come and go, has been the one constant. From the Arians, Romans, and Byzantines to the Ottomans, Nazis, and communists, Berat has been through a lot. And still, the city of 1,000 windows persists, unbroken. Okay, what a nice way to finish that passage. Hopefully you're realizing, too, that here we have a condensed form of all the paragraphs. So the beginning, the first paragraph, the Illyrians, then the Romans, then the Byzantines. So it basically outlines the historical path of the city of Berat here at the end. Okay, so that's almost kind of like an index that can help you figure out where information is. All right. Okay, so let's jump back to the questions now, and let's answer these questions together. So again, if you've got good reading, and Rajveer says visualization works wonders, if you've got good visualization, then you can answer these questions fairly smoothly. So let's do this together. Title of the summary topic, the beginning. So this is going to be early in the passage. The mythical origin of Bharat involves a battle between two something concerning the affections of a certain woman. So the battle between two what? What's the correct answer here? Who are battling here? Two what? Yeah, gods. Very good, Paulo. Giants would probably also be accepted. Gods or giants here, I think, is okay. If you're not sure if it's gods or giants, okay, because those gods are giants. The giants are gods. So let's take a look. By the way, when you're referring to one god, like the Christian God or the Muslim, the Islam God, then it's always a capital G, like that. Okay. When you're doing plural for gods, it's like this. Okay. So plural is small g, but when you're referring to the one God, then it's the God. So in English is written always with a capital G. Okay, just for clarity. So I know some people are confused by that, but multiple gods like Shinto gods, for example, or Greek gods, it's written with a small g. Islam, Christian God, the God is written with a capital G. Okay, just for clarity, for correct spelling. All right. Okay, so let's take a look. So gods or giants, one of the two, for sure. So here it says, the city of 1,000 windows was brought into being by a fight among the gods. Okay, so here it says it's a fight among the gods over the love of a woman. The two ancient giants, represented by nearby mountains, killed each other in a battle for the woman's heart. So it's true that giants is an okay answer, and they might give you the score for that. But the better answer is gods, because gods is directly in that sentence. Fight among the gods over the love of a woman. And if we go down here, battle between two gods is fight among the gods. So giants is okay. They will probably give that to you. Gods is a bit more accurate to the paraphrase in the passage, which is fight among, battle between. So I would probably choose gods. The answer key actually says gods, but they would probably take both. Okay. All right. Named Tomor and Shparag, they live on today in the form of two something surrounding the city of Bharat. This one you should not have to search for. It was very visual. It was very easy. Paulo says mountains. Absolutely. Okay. Mountains. Very good. All right. Violence strikes. Bharat is thought to be about 2,500 years old. Soon after this time, when it was a Macedonian fortress, the something destroyed the city and killed all males over the age of 15. I think this one you should be able to get as well. Okay. It says the Roman Empire. Yeah, I think that's fine. But again, you want to make sure, Ois, that when you're writing names, you use capitalization. Okay, so if you write Roman Empire or if you write Roman Army, then still you want to use capitals for the R. Okay, now let's check the instructions. It's no more than 2 words. So Carolina says Roman Army. Yep, Sammy says Roman Army as well. Okay, yeah. Roman army. Okay. Destroyed the city and killed all males over the age of 15. All right. You could just do Romans as well. Okay. Later, Berat was given the name something because of its importance in culture and beauty in the Byzantine Empire. I have to check for that. I'm pretty sure that was the name of the empress at the time. And I remember it started with a P, and I remember it was somewhere in the middle of the passage. So I go back to that part, and I realized that a name which was derived from Pulcheria. So during the Byzantine period, now here I don't rush, okay? What sometimes happens is a candidate would quickly put Pulcheria in there, which is the actual name of the empress, and they would get that wrong. So I would go from here. During the Byzantine period, following the fall of the western half of the Roman Empire, Berat was known as Pulcheropolis. You see that? Pulcheriopolis. So that's the answer. Now, let me teach you something interesting. So English is a mix of German and French. And French is based in Latin, right? Latin being the main language of Rome, of course. We consider Latin a dead language now. But just wanted to show you something interesting about understanding the endings of words in English. So you see this opolis, okay? And if you are from a Latin speaking country like Spain or Italy, for example, then this will certainly be helpful for you. So maybe some of you know that the word metropolis means a densely populated city. Okay, just a little help with vocabulary here. So metropolitan area, metropolis, a densely populated city. So we can figure out that opolis in Latin probably has something to do with the concept of a city, right? So you take the name of this empress and you add the word city. So it's kind of like the city of Pulcheria, the city of Pulcheria, right? Pulcheriopolis, okay? Does everybody get that? So understanding a little bit of the concepts of German and Latin really helps you to understand English as well, okay? Right? Metropolis, Pulcheriopolis, okay? All right, Sammy says, great. Okay. All right. So, Pulcheriopolis. I'm going to have to... Polis. Okay, Pulcheriopolis. Yeah. All right. Guarding Berat, the fortress on top of Osum River's north bank is known as the something of Berat. All right, now if you remember the spelling, great. If you don't, you're going to have to check, but I bet many of you now know what the answer is here because of that paraphrasing, and this is why the paraphrasing is so important, because oftentimes the paraphrasing is the answer in the questions, okay? All right, citadel. Yeah, that's right. Okay. Paulo says Metropolis is Superman's city. Yeah, and Paulo, it's kind of weird because Metropolis just basically means a densely populated city, right? So it's like it could be any city. That's why Superman lives. By the way, just for fun, I mean, Paulo mentioned it, so I'll make a note here because a lot of people know Superman. Maybe everybody knows Superman. Why does Superman live in Metropolis City? Because it gives the viewer or the audience the idea that Superman could be living in anybody's city. It could be living in your city. If you live in New York, if you live in Tashkent, if you live in New Delhi, if you live in Buenos Aires, Superman could be living in your city because your city is a metropolis, okay? So that's why the creators of Superman called Superman City Metropolis, so that everybody can empathize with where Superman lives. It's like Superman could be in your metropolis, okay? So it's not by accident that Superman lives in Metropolis. So just kind of a side note or kind of fun fact there on storytelling and how good storytelling, and of course this is going to task one general IELTS narrative, creates empathy with the audience. Okay. All right. So yeah, that's Citadel. Okay. Citadel of Berat. It is over 1,500 years old and was repaired approximately 800 years ago. It held many religious institutions, including something, and 20 Christian houses of worship, including it's one. So one what? Very good, Sammy. Yeah, it was a mosque. Okay. So one mosque and 20 Christian houses of worship. So mosque and church are not capitalized. They're just small m or small c if it's a church. Okay. So one mosque and 20 Christian houses of worship. Okay, good. Let's keep going. Do the following statements agree with the claims of the writer in reading passage 3? Yes, if the statement agrees. No, if it contradicts. And not given if it's impossible to say. Okay. Number 33. The Ottomans had a significant influence on Islam during the early modern period. Okay, so here we're talking about the Ottomans. We're talking about their influence on Islam. Is it important for this passage to understand the Ottomans' influence on Islamic religion? So is this important? First, we have to figure out if it's given or if it's not given, because if it's not given, then we just indicate not given and we move on. So Paulo says, nope, not important. Yep. Not for this passage. This is off topic, right? It's not talking about the city of Berat. It's not really talking about its history. It's talking about the Ottoman Empire and about Islam. So it's off topic. So this one is not given. Absolutely. Okay. Number 34, Berat's nickname derives from the Ottoman aesthetic that was favored during the modern period. So Berat's nickname is a city of 1,000 windows. So first we have to figure that out, right? So Berat's nickname is a city of 1,000 windows. City of 1,000 windows comes from the Ottoman aesthetic that was favored. Is that important? Now, that's going to be important because it's about Berat. So that's given, right? So this one's given. And is it true? So is it true that the nickname of City of 1,000 Windows comes from the design, the aesthetic of that time? Sammy says, yes, it's given and it's true. Natalie says it's yes. Absolutely. Yeah, that was very clear in the passage that it was the Ottoman architecture that had all those windows, right? Very good, Harwinder. Number 35. Berat was ruled by Nazis and communists in the 20th century. So again, we have the right topic, okay, Berat. So it's likely going to be given. And is it true that Nazis and communists during the 20th century, during the 1900s, governed or had control of Berat? So think about World War II and then the Cold War after, and you'll come up with yes. Okay? Again, you don't need to search the passage. The modern Albanian state began in 1944. Okay. So this one's going to be important because Berat is Albanian, right? Berat is Albanian, so it's probably important. I'm not sure about this. If I didn't have enough time, I would go with no, because I think it was 1986 after the communists left. Okay, but I can check real quick. So this is where I would check. So my intuition, what I remember, tells me that it's no. Okay. So the creation of the modern Albanian state in 1913. Okay, so I had the wrong date, but it is in a different time. So the end of the Ottoman Empire, with the rise of the Albanian nationalism and the creation of the modern Albanian state in 1913. So the answer is still no. I would have just kind of gotten lucky on that one. But it's earlier. Right? So the answer here is no. Okay, so far we've answered 4 of these yes, no, not given questions. And from the 4, I've only searched for this one. Okay? That's a really important tip when you're doing the IELTS reading section, is you shouldn't be searching for every answer. Ideally, you're only looking for one of every 3, one of every 4 answers back to the passage. Okay? Did everybody catch that? That's kind of an important note here, right? Okay, so ideally you only have to look at the passage for one of every 3 or 4 questions. You should be certain about the other ones. You shouldn't be searching for every question. You're going to run out of time. Okay, all right. Okay, students, so the remainder of these questions, 37 to 40, I'm going to leave for you to do, and then we'll post the answers in the Discord group for members, and we'll also put the answers on our YouTube community board. And if you send me an email, then I can also give you the answers in an email reply. So here are 37 all the way to 40. I'll leave these ones for you members and viewers to do on your own time, and then send me the answers. I'll send you back the answer key. Follow these same strategies that I discussed with you in this class, okay? Good job, everyone. Thank you, Carolina, for moderating. I'll be back in 30 minutes, roughly, with listening practice. So we'll do listening parts 1 and 2. That will be our focus. And I will be back in 30 minutes. I'm going to try to get the general IELTS channel stream going meanwhile as well. Okay, take care, everyone. See you shortly, and I'll be back soon. Take a break, and see you soon. Bye.